Okay, welcome back to the afternoon session. For everyone who was on the morning session, good to have you back again. For newcomers who missed the morning session, welcome. Welcome to today's session. Um, so this morning was pretty uneventful. If you look down at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the 15-minute chart. And from 10 o'clock until the lunch hour, we basically saw price sitting inside of a 15, 20 point range. It really didn't do a whole lot. We saw an impulse candle at the opening bell, and then ever since, just pretty much about where we expected price to be coming off of a major holiday. Also, heading into low volume with a reduced amount of traders for the last week of the year. So I'm not surprised that price didn't move more, but I still thought that it would. And if I stretch out this breaker block that we identified during the morning session, um, we thought price would short out of it, or at least I did. I thought price would short out of it. And it's just kind of been playing inside of it, closing above, trading back inside. You can see it hasn't closed below in quite some time, since before 11:30. We did get a wick out of it during lunch, but it still closed inside. Closed above, traded back inside. Traded back up, closed outside, traded back inside. So I would say as of right now, price is slightly bullish. But at the same time, being slightly bullish, but staying in the same zone still doesn't offer us a trade. So for that reason, we're going to continue to monitor price, and yep, we won't take any trades just yet. Right now, nothing's looking favorable. Let's just sit back and see how the next few candles print and see if it gives us any indication as to what the afternoon may bring, or if there's a pool of liquidity that it's pushing towards. So for now, yeah, there's not a whole lot to do. But actually, you know what? While we wait, for all the newcomers, let's take a look at the higher time frame. All right, so if we go to the weekly, and this is where we were this morning, we were about 20 points away from taking out last week's high. And I thought that would be, obviously, that would be our target for the week. Being so close to it on the first trading day of the week has me a bit nervous that maybe we'll achieve this high, and then we'll see price break down maybe into this fair value gap from a couple weeks ago. Um, Not 100% sure yet, but I did think that we would have broken this high by now based on the way price looked after the opening bell. But since it's stalled, maybe what we'll see is a breakdown in price, print something lower, and then take out the high sometime later in the week. Um, we'll have a better indication in the next hour or so. But for now, we do see that that high is there. And after that high, there's nothing until, okay, need to go to this one, the continuous contract. So if I go to the continuous contract, now I can see where we were 2 years ago. In December of 21, January of 22, we could see we were in this area, and that's where we have the all-time high of 17, almost 700, coming from November of 21, actually. And then we saw December 27th, so the same week 2 years ago, we were right here at 17,560, or 590, I mean, 590. There's a small fair value gap here, which is where we are now. Possibly that's where, that's why price is moving slowly. I know late last week I kept pointing out that we were in the middle of a weekly fair value gap, and that's this one. So we're not out of it until we get through 17,231. So there's still quite a ways. We're only at 17,050-ish. So there's another 180 points before we get out of this weekly fair value gap. So potentially we'll see slow progress all the way through. But that's really what's holding up price, or at least that's the PD array that we are in the middle of right now, and then we've been in since last week. Probably why this candle was much smaller than what we saw the week before. But let's move down to the hourly. All right. So middle of last week, we saw a breakdown in price, and we just kind of been stair stepping it back up, trying to eclipse these highs, which we are getting close to, or we got close to this morning, still close to now. Don't see any fair value gaps or anything to note on this time frame right now. Let's drop down to the 15. Okay, the 15 has a few areas it could trade down to if we do lose this level. We have the fair value gap down to 17,014, which is sort of where we've been. That was created this morning at the opening bell. We also have a little bit lower from the open yesterday at 1800. We have one created around 16,990 down to 16,965. So there's a few areas that it can play into prior to breaking structure and looking bearish. But we do have this swing low we want to be aware of down at 16,900. So it's about 150 points down. But in a nutshell, that's where we are now. Price is still kind of stuck in the zone that it's been in. So let's go back to our quarterly contract. Let's continue to monitor the price to see when we get out of this zone. Okay, I'll turn back on the drawings. Here we go. All right. If anyone jumped in a trade during all this chop and they took a position, you're still in your position, go ahead and let us know in the chat now that you're in a position. Let us know whether you're short or long. Okay, I'll take that as no one's in an open position right now, which is probably a good idea. Right now, there's a bearish fair value gap on this 1 minute chart that price is inside of. It was a pretty strong candle pushing through, so we may see a break this time. Oh, USD. Okay, no worries. Okay. Another close above. So, I mean, we've seen it before, but this is coming off of a higher low. So this could actually push price above the highs that we saw before lunch or during lunch. You got a retest of the breaker coming. Let's see if this candle can actually manage to stay outside of the breaker, at least on a closure basis. Maybe it can trade into, but close outside of. Okay, last second. Okay, so we got a close above still, even on the retracement. Okay, now let's see what this follow-up candle brings. Okay, while we're waiting, let's take a peek over at ES and see how it's doing on that side. All right. ES looks to be slightly above. I mean, it's doing a similar pattern, but if we had drawn up a breaker for ES, which would have been over in this area, ES is trading above the breaker. But it was doing that before lunch, so it's not surprising. And let's go over to the Dow. Okay, same. So all trading at daily highs. Haven't quite eclipsed last week yet. But still not a lot of progress either. Just a lot of back and forth action. The other two are a little more advanced than the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is definitely back and forth consolidation, whereas the others are at least making some progress towards higher prices. Whereas Nasdaq, every time it makes higher prices, then we get a retracement back into this breaker zone, and it just kind of stalls price for a bit. We just had the high broken at 17,058. It gave us an extra point up to 59. And now we're back down testing the upper limits of the breaker again. Okay, now we see price fighting to stay out of the breaker zone. It's we did get a closure inside, and then the very next candle closed above again. So we're still seeing price try to push for the upper limits, although it's struggling. All right, let me make this a little larger so we can see exactly what's happening in this slow area where price is right now. Okay, we still see closure outside and above. Right, let's look at the dollar and see what's going on. Okay. Right, so we saw the dollar put in lows around 10:15. We then saw a recovery up until around the 11 o'clock hour. We saw those 10:15 lows swept at about 11:45 just before lunch. And then throughout lunch, we did sweep and make new lows, but it's kind of still playing in the same area. So it looks like the dollar is back in sync with the commodities. Dollar's struggling for new lows, commodities struggling for new highs. And they both, for the most part, are just staying in the zone they've been in since before lunch. All right, let's get back over to Nasdaq. Okay, price still seems to be above the breaker zone. Okay, look like we're getting somewhere. Let me just mark up this trend line that I see. Okay, pushing for the before lunch highs. Alrighty, new high of the day. Okay, so we finally did push through those highs that were created after retracement from the opening bell. So we had the opening bell push up, small retracement, another push higher above the opening bell highs, and that gave us highs around 1040 that we just eclipsed. So now let's see how price responds to that new high. Okay, remember down in the left hand corner, we still have the 15-minute that we can see if we want to just get a higher view of what price has been doing this morning. Okay, now we're about 15 points or so away from the weekly high from last week, which is 17,073. So another less than 10 points will hit the weekly high from last week. Which obviously is our first target of this week, is to reach last week's weekly high. Once that's achieved, then we set our sights on the all-time high. Not that that's going to be the weekly goal, but that would really be the next goal in line. And so we would then line that up, and I believe it's about 600 points. So we could see progress towards that goal for the rest of the week. We could also see a sell-off for the rest of the week after reaching the weekly target. So we'll see what happens. But we are about 10 points away from last week's high, and then we'll see how price responds should it reach that soon. Okay, let's look on the 15-minute at some of the others. Okay, we got a high from ES as well. Yep. The Dow just reached its high. Okay, let's see. All right, so the Dow got there. Let's see if the dollar hit its low. It did take out the previous low that it had, which was in this range from the lunchtime hour. All that's gone as well. So, and we see the dollar's in a big fair value gap. So we'll have to pay attention and see if the dollar bounces from here and put in higher prices. But for now, we did have lower prices from the dollar, and we had higher prices from all three indices. So that's good to see. Now we're looking for that reaction. Okay, as we start to get a small retracement here, we want to keep our eyes on the double the equal lows down at 17,051. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining. And I can understand, yes, definitely a difficult situation you have in Ukraine. But I'm glad you're able to join, and it's good to have you in the room. Well, I hope that you're subscribed to the channel, and yeah, let's continue talking, and then see where you are as a trader, and how we can be of help to you. And then, you know, any others in the Ukraine who are also looking to find a room of traders that they can hang out with and trade from, please invite them. Bring them along next time. Not exactly call the trades. I mean, I do talk about the setups I'm taking. I talk about what I'm looking for and what I'm interested in and seeing the market do. Um, but I don't necessarily call out my trades as in like a signal service or saying, "Hey, everyone, follow me." That's not really the intent. It's I wasn't trying to have a copying service or anything like that. I do want to have a group of traders in the room that we can, you know, bounce ideas from and learn from, but not necessarily as a sort of a copy trade situation. Because for one, I'm not a licensed broker or a licensed money manager. Um, so I would never want to carry anyone else, the burden of anyone else's live trades. If you want to follow along in a demo account, that's advised. Also, as I'm pointing out what I'm looking for and why I'm taking a particular trade, I think it's important to mark those things down and then follow up the session with your own back testing of the strategies or of the things that I'm looking at, so you can start to identify them yourself. Um, and then in the future, when you see me take a trade, we're actually taking the same setup without me telling you, all right, we're going to buy and we're going to enter at this level. You will see the trades on the screen. However, I do have to put in a limit order, so you'll see where I'm entering and where my stop loss is placed. So you'll get all the details, all the information, but I'm not encouraging people to follow my trades. You can do whatever you want at your own will, but that's not an encouragement from me. But Hugo, it's great to have you in the channel. I'm sure if you hang out for a little bit, you'll see exactly how I run the channel or how I take my trades, and and when I start to explain what I'm doing, and you may find that it's the same thing, um, but I don't necessarily have to call out the trades. Um, but especially for right now, since we have only a handful of comments in the chat, so there's not a lot of things for me to questions for me to answer. So I'm doing a lot of just speaking about what I see in the candles and what I'm hoping to see next. And so it's kind of a live tape reading session. So there's quite a bit to pick up from and learn just from watching. And then there's things that I miss, and I have some other members of the channel who will jump in and tell me on a different time frame that they see something, and then I'll jump over and display it to everyone. And so that's kind of how we do things around here. All right, so we've had price out of this range for quite some time. Traded back below the earlier high from the day, and it seems like we're just teetering right around that area. Trying to see if it's going to break out and run for the weekly high of last week. We're still anticipating that because it's only like 15 points away from where we are. All right. Looks like price is on its way back to come back and retest the area from earlier. All right. So we'll just continue watching. We're now, we passed half of the hour. So we're now at almost 135. Well, the first half is gone, which is good. Usually we'll get a better price action the second half, heading into 2 o'clock. And if this half hour doesn't give us what we're looking for, then we will wait for the 2 o'clock hour to hopefully provide a bit more price action and something that we can work with and look for a setup. But we just have to be patient today and just remember that yesterday was a global holiday, so the markets were closed for everyone. And so for today to be a little stagnant or be a little weird acting, I think we should be understanding. Yeah, here are those equal lows I spoke about at 17,051. Yeah, I drew this trend line here just to see if at some point we get a break in the way that the lows were being placed. The lows were being put in a staggered order, which created this trend line. Now we finally have a low that's a little bit different than what we had before. Doesn't really mean anything as of right now, but it does perk our ears a little bit so we can pay attention a little closer. Let's see if price is willing to get below here and trade below these equal lows and even further. Yeah, there's a good chance that we will get bearish. All-time highs always does that. Plus, we're in the middle of a bearish fair value gap on the weekly time frame. So on the high time frame, we're in the middle of bearish resistance. And so far today, we've really been struggling trying to get the high of last week. So I wouldn't say we're going to turn bearish long term, but in short term, we could. We absolutely could. And if you think about the power of three, if we are looking for higher prices, generally there's a wick, a down wick, and that wick is created in the early stages of the candle. So if we put our weekly candle into context in that way, we should expect earlier in the week for price to put in lows, and then later in the week look for highs. Nice. I look at the opening of today's daily candle and the high, and it's exactly 100 points from open to high. And right now there's no down wick on the daily candle, which then means there's no down wick on the weekly candle since today is the first day of the week. Um, so it would surprise me if we don't get a down wick at all. But just because of where we're trading, I think we're going to get that high first. Okay, looks like we got a further breakdown on this on the lower time frame. What would I like to see happen? I'd probably like to see a sweep of lows. Come and sweep low and then run for the high. Yep, that's what I would like to see happen. Yep. We'll see how things deliver. All right, I'm going to drop this trend line. I don't think we need it any longer. We can already see the price is now retracing back into the breaker zone once again. So yeah, so we've been here since all this started around 10:30. Okay, so those equal lows did fall a few candles ago. These two equal lows. We then had a push back up to the upper end of the breaker. We had a rejection out of that. We still see price pushing lower. Alrighty. So I was just checking out the hourly chart, and you know what? Let me pull it up. Let's take a look at it. All right. So I was looking at the hourly chart, and I know it's busy. Let me turn off some of this. There we go. Take a peek at the hourly chart. As you can see, we're struggling up at this area here for the last few hours. But if you look at where we are, if anyone was on a session last week, or if you were trading in the middle of last week and FOMC and all that came out and was delivered, it is huge drop, price drop here. I remember this was like late in the day too. Just saw price just kind of die on us. We've now kind of dug our way out of all of that and traded back into this huge fair value gap that was created. And now we're up at the top end. Now we see price stalling, which is where it stalled there and fell off. So I just wanted to point that out since I hadn't made that connection before. But I do remember trading this day, and we were looking for higher prices and everything was moving super slow, just kind of like it is now. And then all of a sudden at 2 o'clock or 2:30, we just saw price fall apart. So let me get back down to the 1 minute, but I did want to highlight that. Okay, all right, more money. I'm not 100% sure what you're pasting in here. Maybe you can explain a little more about what this is. Okay, we saw a little impulse here. Price looked like it wants to react a little bit. Let's see, what was it reacting to? Was it reacting to this fair value gap over here? Oops. Or are we going to react on the bearish side on this end? We have two. We have one here, and then we have another just above. All right, heading up to the macro starting at 150. So in just another minute or two, it'll be 150. We'll see the 2 o'clock macro run, and then we'll start at 2 o'clock hour in about 10 minutes. All right, we saw the first fair value gap not hold, so let's remove it. extend this one. All right, as we head into the second hour of this afternoon broadcast, if everyone could hit the like button, support the channel, YouTube know that there are traders in here enjoying themselves. YouTube will promote us to other traders. So let's see if we can't get a few more people in for the second hour of this afternoon's broadcast. Thank you for your support. Right, so far we've had two candles break into this fair value gap, both rejected out and closed below. Let's see what this third candle does. Okay, big rejection out of the fair value gap down to the previous one. So now we wait to see if price will break through one of these fair value gaps or if it's just going to ping pong back and forth through these two for the next short time period as we go through this macro. Okay, so we had a test off of this 50% level. of the bearish fair value gap. Now we have a test off of the bullish fair value gap's 50% level. Okay, I guess I should have waited for that candle to close. Looks like we pushed all the way through, but somehow managed to close above. That's fine. In another 5 minutes or so, we'll be into the next hour, and then we'll start looking for price action to do something different. I know I've been saying that for the last few hours, and it seems to not want to do that. It seems to go against me. Continue to ignore my request, but it's okay. We'll continue being patient, and eventually price will give us a setup. It'll show us exactly what we're looking for. It's just not wanting to do it on the time that we want it. Didn't see that coming. Looks to be a spot on trend line drawn on the 15-minute. Okay, still another 4 or 5 minutes before the hour closes. Right. Okay. Still early on in this candle, so let's wait and see where this candle closes. Okay. Okay, so we did get a close below the trend line. Now we'll wait and see if the next few candles follow suit, or if we immediately get a break above and then we start being bullish again. So far, we've had two bearish fair value gaps that have held. We had this one traded into 3 times and reject. We had 2 candles in the smaller one. We got a rejection there too. We didn't get this one to hold. So what I'm going to do now is take the border, make that green. Oops, sorry, make that red. So we're going to use this as an inverted fair value gap. So it's no longer used for bullish purposes. Now it's going to be used for bearish purposes. We're going to see if we can get a trade up to it and then a rejection. It looks like we have gotten mostly. We want to see this wick get at least 50%. So down to 17,047. Okay, we've traded back into this fair value gap. Remember, we want to see a rejection out of it. All right, there's the 50% of the wick now traded. It looks like it's about 1 tick away, but we'll consider that done. All right, we did get a rejection out of this fair value gap, it looks like. We're now back down to the midpoint of this breaker. Okay, it's 2 o'clock now. We're now in the 2 o'clock hour. Okay, yep, we want to continue to see rejections out of this fair value gap. We don't want to see it reclaim. It traded above and closed above. We don't want to see that. We want to see it trade into and reject out. Okay. Take a small position, see if we can hold the price level. In the event the price doesn't hold, it's fine. It's only one contract. Looks like I'm at about 5-point stop loss. Let's reduce risk a bit. I didn't want to see it push below. I didn't want to see a closure above. We're down, getting close to the end. Yeah, see. Okay, price pushed through. Okay, so that didn't win, but as I said, it was a low risk. We're still in this same zone we've been in the entire time. I was just looking to see if maybe we would get a breakout. Now that we're in the 2 o'clock hour, but it looks like maybe delete that. We're not there yet. Let's continue to monitor price and see where we may find an entry this hour. Right, let's see if this provides the entry we were looking for. Potentially we'll get a fair value gap created here, which could be the entry. Just really depends on what happens during this candle and where it closes. Exactly, Anis. It didn't move at all. All right, so prior to the closure of this candle, it closed in, so there is no fair value gap to speak of. So we continue to wait. Let me just stretch out these fair value gaps because it hasn't been closed above yet, so they're still valid. Hey, so far we still have all the candle closures below the extreme of the fair value gap. So it's been trading above it, but then closing inside or below. And so we'll continue to leave this limit order open. We'll see if price retraces to it. Okay, not sure what happened there. I thought it touched the limit order. Okay, just in case, I'll go ahead and just throw myself in. Oh, there we go. So now we have two. Go. Okay, we have equal highs here. See if price wants to push past that. Okay, it showed a willingness to do so. Let's now see if it can push through this fair value gap this second go round. And drop this one. All right, it's the first time price has reached to the outer limit of the fair value gap, but we still need to push through and trade above, close above actually. Let's go ahead and break even our trade just in case. All right, we had a close right at the upper limit, but not above. Let's see if the next one keeps going. Okay, first candle to close above the fair value gap. Let's see if price can stay above. Okay, just closed in that fair value gap that was created about 3 candles ago. See if price can return above this fair value gap that it just traded through. The bearish one, actually, not the bullish one. Let me go ahead and mark up the bullish one too. All right, so it's taking us out. Break even on this one. I thought about maybe pulling the plug on it and being happy with 5 or 6 points per contract, but that wasn't the trade I was looking for. I really was hoping that it would get up and take out one of these highs. But it's okay. It's been kind of the tail of the tape. It's been what we've been seeing so far today. So again, I don't want to force anything. So I'll just look and wait for the next setup. We have a volume imbalance that was created not long ago here, which could be where it traded back down to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, since it was after 2 o'clock, and we had this low taken, we swept the low here, and then it was after 2 o'clock. I tried to get this tiny little fair value gap here as a silver bullet entry right here. I was hoping it would leave, this candle here would leave a larger fair value gap, but it didn't. It left only about 1 tick or so, maybe 2 ticks. So that was the entry I took on this candle out of this fair value gap for a long. And it worked out for a little bit, but I couldn't quite get to 62 or 63 where I was hoping to go. So we'll keep looking and we'll try to hunt another one. Looks like maybe now we'll get a trade off of the breaker here, maybe get some more bullish momentum. But yeah, I just wanted to show everyone that this is the trade I took and why I took it. And if it's anything like Friday, now it's going to run to target. I missed 2 trades on Friday of getting stopped out on break even, and then they both ran to target. Just for anyone wondering, this trade here, entering here at 52.5, stop loss would have been placed here at 49.75. 49.75. Beat this one. Look and see which one is built here. Let's drop this one. You're forgetting if you don't do that, it doesn't allow you to take control of your stop losses and your take profit. You have to create separate limit orders for that if you don't do it from the beginning. Right? See if we can get another go at a similar entry. Not quite as good of an entry, but similar. Okay, let's break these equal highs first. First order of business. Okay, so equal highs have now been taken out. Let's see where the next swing high will be. 62 and a half, 17,062 and a half. Let's get rid of that line. Put it up here. Okay, let's see if this latest fair value gap provides any support. Okay, let's see if we can get to this 130 high that we made. See if we can get past it. Right, so I'm gonna move my stop off the break even. And the reason why I'm doing that is because my original entry was down here and my original exit was up in the 63 range. So I was looking for the trade to end up around in this area. Um, so I want to make sure now that since we're getting close, a lot of times what happens is when the trade gets 80 to 90% of full term, it'll do a retracement. So I just want to make sure it didn't do that and pull me all the way back, take me out of the trade, and then run to profit. But right now it looks good. It did take out the high from this afternoon so far, the 130 high. So now we're going to hold and see if we can't get up to around 17,068, 69, somewhere in that range. Let's see. So the weekly high is actually around 73 and a half. I do anticipate there being some issues as it gets closer. So I do want to make sure we're exiting well before. And I just felt like this level gave us at least, 10, 11, 12 points from our entry. So let's see if we can get up there or if price comes back on us. Yep, I'm a little sad I didn't keep my last trade open or didn't leave the stop where it was because we would have reached the target. So now if it comes all the way back on me, it'll just be another example of me moving my stop and then price coming to take me out of the trade. But it's okay. It's okay. We're still preserving capital by putting a stop loss above break even. Enough to pay the fees and everything for this transaction. See if we get a push out of this range or if it'll peel back and take me out of the trade. Put this now at that low. So now anything down to the previous low we just had on the last candle will take us out of the trade. Looks like that'll be half a tick. So that's, well, 2 ticks, half a point. There'll be enough to pay the commission and put $5 in our pocket. Okay, closing in at 2:30. So half past the hour. Okay, hopefully this fair value gap will hold. So I'm gonna go ahead and put myself 1 point in profit. This new high is here. Actually, there. Okay, price failed to make a new high. It looks like potentially there's some sort of retracement happening now. So it's good that we did move our stop. Here we go. Okay. All right. Well, I'll shut it down there. Got 200 on a contract. So that was enough for me. Just based on the way price has been looking this morning. I didn't trust it to continue to push. But I think 10 points on a contract, given that today has been a little off base a little bit, I think that's a good outcome for that trade. So now we'll wait and see if there's something else that shows us that we should continue to look for longs, or let's look and see what price may do for the rest of the day. I'm still holding out that 17,073 is where price is going to go. But yeah, it's just been one of those days. Yep. Absolutely. And after missing out on the last one, not to mention, um, where did we re-enter from? Re-enter from here in this area. Yep, right here. And the original entry was here. So we missed about 5 points on the entry, plus my original entry. I had 2 contracts, whereas this one only had 1. So that was ended up getting about half the profit I thought I was going to get from the trade, but better than nothing. And it made up for the loss from this morning. So I'm right around break even for the day. And we can keep looking for another setup. Thanks, Chuck. Thank you very much. Man, this is so ugly looking at this 15-minute chart. It's, mm -mm. If that push up to 73 is going to happen now. Seven to 65. Oh, yeah, there's definitely a trend channel here. You're right. Just kind of, yep, just kind of hitting this thing here. Yep. Not really good at drawing the trend channels, but yeah, I see what you're saying. So you can draw a trend line for the lows and then almost an equal trend line for the highs. And you can just wait for price to get to one of the lower extremities, go long, and just kind of ride it up. Your aggression channel tool. Okay. Mm, yeah, I don't really want the Fibonacci's. No, I can't. I have to work on it some other time. I can't get it to work. Not really good at it. Let me try it one more time. Just take the Fibonacci coordinates off. 0 and 100. See if this works. Kind of. Right, it's not great, but it's usable, I guess. Oh, okay. Hmm. All right. Well, I'll keep working on it. But at least that allowed us to see what the channel looks like as price was moving through it, and now we can see that it's clearly um, broken that trend, or at least in a short term for next candle or two. It could return right back into the same zone, but we did see it break through. So now we'll look and see where price goes, whether it shoots for the swing low it's right next to, or whether it returns to the fair value gap and looks for some sort of energy out of the fair value gap. We'll just wait and see. But either way, I'm glad I exited that trade up here because it didn't really get past 768, and now it's just kind of been going sideways for 10 minutes. Right. All right, 15 minutes before the hour. All right, if you're liking the content, we got another hour coming up. So if you could hit the like button, that'll help YouTube suggest us to other traders that are still looking for a session to join. We have another hour coming up. Just want to make sure that we get a few more people in. And if you haven't subscribed yet, but you are enjoying what you're seeing so far, consider doing so. That helps support the channel, as well as make sure that you don't miss out on any of the future sessions, and that you get 30-minute reminders prior to the session beginning. Okay, we're almost at the highs that we had about 10, 12 minutes ago. We did see price push up after trading down to below this candle at 232. Okay, we see a rejection so far, but another 15 seconds before this candle closes. And we have a small fair value gap. Look like it's being created here. Thank you. Thank you for hitting the like button. I appreciate that. Okay, we saw this candle put in a new high. It's slightly rejecting out a little bit. It didn't close above, but we did get a candle wick above the previous high from about 15 minutes ago. So I'm going to see if that momentum can continue. Remember, 17,073 is last week's high, which is also the high of 2023. Okay, so we did find support on this newly created fair value gap that I outlined. Made an even higher high than a couple candles ago. Still pushing up towards 17,073 and a half. Okay, 69 and a quarter. So we're about 4 points away. All right, new high put in. Just an extra tick. So now we're up to 69 and a half. We're inside the macro of the last 10 minutes of the hour. Let's see if that's enough to push it up or if it'll seek support and take the weekly high once the macro completes at 10 after the next hour. Hey, Matt, welcome. Welcome to the channel. Where you where are you chiming in from and how long have you been trading? All right, we're about 3 points away now. All right, still waiting on price to decide if it's going to go and take the weekly high from last week. It's still like inching its way up, but not really showing any eagerness to get there. All right, less than 2 points away now. Yeah, I do. Matt, as of right now, I'm just looking to see what price is going to do. I've been waiting for like the last probably six candles where it looks like price is going to sweep this weekly high from last week, up at 73 and a half. And then it makes an energetic move and then it comes back. And so I was just more or less watching the 1 minute time frame and just seeing where price was going to go next. And I was just observing, but it looks like it wants to stall for a bit. We're closing out the hour in 1 more minute. We'll be at 3 o'clock. And then we'll see what the next hour brings. I know we're going to close out this macro that started at 250. We started pushing out of this fair value gap right here at 17065 ish, right in that area, and it started pushing out. So I thought before we got to 310, we would take out this weekly high, and then the power hour would deliver whatever that's going to deliver. We'll wait and we'll watch and see how price reacts. But we are expecting this high to be taken. We've been expecting that since we opened up at 10 o'clock this morning when we got online. And so far, getting this 25 points has been quite slow. Oh, there we go. Good job. Finally. Okay, so now we have the weekly high swept from last week. So we have a new high for this week, which also means we have a new high for the year because last week's high was the yearly high. So here we are at the end of the year making a new high. Now let's see how the last hour, since we have right now it's 3 o'clock. So now we have 1 hour before price closes today. Let's see if we run higher because we finally broke through where we needed to, or if we see price rescind back where it was and we just continue to range for the day. So we'll wait and see. Right now, it seems like it's a bit energetic. It's happy to get to where it got to, but we don't want to overreact. So let's look and see how the next couple candles print. And making gains today. I took a small loss earlier. Took a small win just recently, about 30 minutes ago or so, to cover up that small loss. So I'm at break even for the day. But if you take a look at price action for if you start around 10 o'clock, there really hasn't been a lot to trade into. Bottom left-hand corner, I'm not sure if you just joined, Matt, or if you've been on for a while, but the bottom left-hand corner, you can see from 10 o'clock is just basically stayed in this blue box I drew up at, I think 10:30 was when we looked at this breaker block, and price never left the breaker block until about 30 minutes ago. So it hasn't been a lot to trade for today, not to mention we've always been about 20 points away from what the goal was. So jumping into a trade really was only going to send you about 20 points higher. And then we'll be at the high of the year. So it's like, well, what's the next target? And we got to wait and see what price wants to do. Let me clean up the charts a little bit so it's a little easier to see on the lower time frame. Okay, so I see price has already taken, has already taken 50% of this wick. So I'm not going to mark that up. Okay, we don't need the weekly high marking any longer. We now understand that we're at the highest point of the year. So let's just pay attention to the next few candles or next series of candles and see if we continue to push for highs and we sweep this one above 17,079, or if we start pushing into some of these lows. We have a swing low at 68. We have equal lows at 66.75. We also have a fair value gap down at 65. So let's see if any of those levels are in play. Okay, I would think the next level that we could hit, that would mean something on the higher time frame, is 17,092. 17,092 is the midway point of the weekly fair value gap from 2 years ago, from the all-time high. When price broke down in January of 22, it left a fair value gap behind, a bearish fair value gap on the weekly chart. We're now almost very near to the center of that weekly fair value gap. The center is at 17,092. So that would probably be the next target we would hit on our way up. That may be a resistance to price. That will give us another 10 points or so. Yeah, let's put that here. Two and a quarter. There we go. Yeah, we'll see, Matt. I mean, at least forecasting another 10 points or so up to 92 and a quarter. And from there, we'll see if price wants to run all the way to the upper edge. The upper edge would be quite a significant move. The upper edge of the fair value gap is at 239. So 50% is at 092, but then the upper edge is another 140 points. That'd be awesome if it just ran for the next 30 minutes and then covered the 130 points. I just hope it gives me an opportunity to take an entry. Okay, let's wait for this candle to close. But in the meantime, let me mark up these equal lows that may be quickly targeted. All right, so we did get a close below the fair value gap. Oops, let's just delete that. Let's see where the next candle lands, whether it trades back into what was the fair value gap and down, whether it takes back the level and reclaims it. Okay, looks like potentially it may want to reclaim that level. So let me redraw that back up. See if we can get a close above. Right now, I do not have a trade active, Matt. No, when I have a trade active, you'll see it. I usually go in with a limit order. So you'll see me create like a limit order like this. And then when price trades down through it, you'll see it activate and start tallying up where we are. So if I'm in a trade, you'll be able to see it. Okay, so the last candle didn't close outside, it closed inside. So I'll leave it there just for another candle or two, just to see where the next few candles lay. But all right, so this one did the same thing. It closed inside. I'm waiting for it to close above so I can leave it, or we get another close below and I'll delete it. Okay, just a couple minutes, we'll be at 315, and we'll look for the last really 30 to 45 minute push that price is going to do today, and then we'll close off our session. But we have seen price during these last 30 to 45 minutes push quite aggressively, so we could see a setup. I don't want to give up on it just yet. All right, let's get price out of this little area that it found itself in. Seems like every day we get stuck in something like this. Good news is it's close to the end, so in the next 2 or 3 candles or so, it's going to have to react aggressively and get out of this range, and so we'll be able to see what the next move is. Okay, so we did get a close above the fair value gap, so I will leave it there. I know the previous candle did close below slightly, but we did have a strong reaction back in and above, so I'm going to leave it. Let's move these out of the way now. We don't need them. Also look and see if we get a fair value gap created right here. Hmm. We got some bullish candles over here. Nice looking wick coming out of the fair value gap. So I would imagine we're going to go and take out this high, and let's see what happens afterwards. Whether we continue with a strong push or we get a rejection back down. Failure today has been the ultimate test of patience. So everyone who's been on the feed today and been hanging out with us, we definitely been learning patience today. Let me just mark this up just so we are aware that it's there. Stretch it out a bit. Closing in on a new high for the hour. Again, as we push closer to the 50% of the bearish fair value gap on the weekly chart. Yeah, let me just skip over to the weekly quickly, just so everyone can see what I'm talking about. We need to go to the continuous contract. Right, and so it's here. This is where we were the week of January 3rd of 2022. It's a big bearish candle here, which created a fair value gap from 17,223 down to 16,953. In fact, there we go. So this is where we're getting close to right here, this 50%. And I know the values are slightly different because, no, they're not. They're the same. So that's where we are, 17,088.50. So that's the one I'm speaking about. This lower one here is the daily. Let me just take that off. Oops. You only want to see it on the weekly. Whatever reason it's still showing. But so now that we've seen that fair value gap, let me jump back down to the other chart and get back down to the lower time frame we were on. Oh, okay. So while I flipped over to the other chart, We had one impulse candle for this minute, in the last 30 seconds or so, take out that 50% area. So we have reached that the half of that fair value gap. Next target above that, yeah, would be the top of the fair value gap, which is at 17,236. So yeah, so we'd be looking at another 130, 140 points up to the next area. So between here and there, we could get a rejection back down, or we can just get a climb continuously up towards that area. But let me clean up the charts a bit, remove that. We already reached a high, so I can remove that one as well. We never retrace, so we don't need the equal lows. I almost took a buy when it was down here on these equal lows. I almost took it, but I didn't. What broker am I using? I'm using Topstep. So Topstep is the prop firm that I'm using, and they use a broker called Tradovate. If you want to use TradingView, which is this platform I use, TradingView, if you want to trade through here as opposed to trading through another broker, when you sign up for Topstep, you'll have to also let them know that you want to use Tradovate. And so then what you'll do is you log into Tradovate through this program, TradingView, and it allows you to trade with your Topstep account. So for me, is an easy transition from going from paper trading, because I'm still using TradingView. So I still have my all the same indicators. I still have the same platform that I'm used to. Everything works. So this was the easiest transition for me, was to continue using TradingView, and Topstep lets you do that. Okay, we've now eclipsed 17,100. So it seems like after being held back all day long, price now seems like it wants to run. So let's watch it run. Anybody in a long? Anyone take a long on the way up? All right, Chuck. Once again, here's Chuck. All right, Chuck, where are you going to take it to? 17. I don't know. So we've made it all the way up to 17,110. Okay, we see price now trading back into the fair value gap recently created after making the high of 17,110. Yeah. Well, yeah, anyone who took a long, it's a good trade. And it definitely gave enough profits if you wanted to exit already, that you'd be satisfied with your trade. But for those still holding, there could be more available. We'll just see if price wants to get above this 110 level. After it does this little retracement here, we'll see how far it goes. Let me take a peek at the 5 minute. Okay. Hey, we got price pushing for a new high now. Okay, let's keep an eye on the clock. We're past 3:30 now. There's still another half hour to go, but we have passed half the hour. All right, there it is. New high. Right, so far, our most recent fair value gaps have all held up. We had to play down almost to 50% of this larger area, and we saw a new high made. It created a smaller fair value gap, which has been traded into a couple times. It hasn't made a new high, but it is showing bullish candles out of it, showing rejection. I mean, if price is going to continue to go up, we do want to see it break the previous swing high and close above. Okay, we got a rejection so far. It was a strong move below the fair value gap, but it doesn't look to be sustained. Let's give it another 30 seconds and wait for the candle to close. Right, so we did get a closure below, so get rid of that one. Okay, a little market structure shift. Let's see what happens with this area here, whether we get a bearish fair value gap that we can then mark up. Okay, now let's see if this one holds. This newly created fair value gap from the impulse push downwards. Okay, the last few candles has stayed in this fair value gap zone and it stayed below the bearish one that was just created. We want to see a retest of this bearish one and then see a rejection downwards. But I guess we could also see it push below this fair value gap is in right now and close somewhere down here. And then we'll delete this, which will give us a little clearer picture about where price is going. Right, 20 minutes before the hour is over. Okay, it's pushing below. Let's see if it'll close below. Got about 20 seconds left on this candle. Samuel, hi, welcome. Welcome to the channel. Samuel, where are you joining from? A few seconds below before this candle closes. All right, still there's been no retest of this fair value gap. I was thinking maybe it would, and then seek lower prices, because that would at least give people an opportunity to take an entry if they wanted to short. But right now it's not giving you that, and we're pushing down towards the lower extremities of this fair value gap. Okay, we have equal lows now. Still not a closure outside of. All right, we're getting close to, we're about 15 minutes before the hour is over. So before everyone heads out today, please make sure you like the video. And also make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you get invited to future live streams. I'd love to see everyone back again. Hopefully price will be a bit more cooperative at that time. Right now I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's not like it didn't give us any entries, but it was pretty stale today. But we're still here and we're still enthusiastic and still being patient with price. But we'll be back again tomorrow. And I just want to make sure that anyone who wants to join us again receives that invitation. So on your way out, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And that would help me out quite a bit. You'd be supporting us a lot. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for all the support, everyone, the newcomers, as well as the returning members. And we still got another 15 minutes or so, but it does look like price is slowing down some. John Public, yes, I am here tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock New York time. So if you subscribe to the channel, you will get an invite. Okay, we had even further push down. So after taking out these equal lows, maybe this is the candle that'll give us a closure below this fair value gap. Maybe. Okay, maybe this is the test of that fair value gap I was looking for. Okay, just tapped in by one tick into this area. Now let's see if it continues to push or if we get a rejection and now we're back down to 17,092 quickly. Hey, no problem, John. Thanks for joining. Good to see you and hope to see you in the future. It looks like it reached up to the 50% mark. We did get a rejection out of it. We're now back into the green area of the fair value gap. Okay, so it did close below for one candle and then push right back in. Normally I would have deleted it, but since it pushed back in at such an aggressive level, in such an aggressive way, I'm gonna hold it open for now and see where the next few candles lie. Maybe it'll trade off and take out those lows and we won't have to worry about it. But we'll see. To trade is what we'd be looking for. So where would that take us? Right here. All right, and it looks like it's pretty spot on. This is what the 1 to 2 trade would have looked like. And it came out by one tick. Oops, let me move it over a little bit. Not this. Yep. Let me expand this, and you can see where it came out at the bottom, poked through, delivered its profit, and immediately retraced back up. And now it's up in the zone here. Let me just move this out of the way and show everybody why I marked up that area. So when we made our high, this high here, right, this became our new high with a intermediate term low down here. Then we retraced and we made a new high, which then brought up our key level here. Once price broke down on this side, we swept this low, which then turned us bullish. Turned us bearish. Sentiment changed, at least on the short term. We went bearish, and we had a fair value gap here. So I really liked what was there. The only problem was I needed a retrace into it. So all down here, I was waiting for a retrace back into this area. It did actually retrace in. The entry would have been at the very lower extreme of the fair value gap, which is why you see the line here placed. Stop loss would have been above this wick right here. That's the upper extreme there. And then you aim for a 1 to 2, which takes you down, and it beat it by one tick, delivered everything, and then started trading back up in the zone. But that was what I was looking for. Today's just been too wonky, and it's 350 or 345, so I didn't take the trade. But that was that's what I was looking for. That's also why I kept asking for it to retrace and to retest this fair value gap, and it did, and it delivered. So that's what that's why I was saying what I was saying. So I just wanted to explain that for a second. Now we'll see where price finishes up for the day. Samuel, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Oh, Poland. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. But welcome, welcome. Good to have you. I think you may be the first person to join from Poland, or at least the first person to introduce themselves. All right, let's get rid of some of this. All right, both of these can go now. So after spending all day in a very tight range and not doing much at all, we had a sizable expansion for about around 60 points this afternoon. And now it looks like we are descending back into that same range from earlier. So even though it wasn't a huge expansion, at least it was enough movement to give you an entry or two. The move up was a bit difficult just because it was so slow, and every candle seemed to trade back into the previous one. So it's been hard to place a stop loss. But this move down in the last 10 minutes, that one was pretty straightforward. And that's about what you expect to see during normal price action. We just didn't get that today. But we knew following up after a holiday yesterday, a global holiday, was price action was going to be a bit tricky. Not to mention everyone who missed out on yesterday and couldn't wait to trade. They were going to play on that greed and I guess lack of patience, knowing that people wanted to trade and they were going to give you something to jump into and then trap you. So that's pretty much what they were doing today, is getting everyone trapped all day long. In the last hour has been pretty decent. Amit, welcome back. Welcome back. Good to see you. Oh yeah. Sammy, I've had this mouse since I can't even remember. I know where I was living, so somewhere between 2005 and 6, somewhere in there is when I bought this mouse, and it continues to work. I'm the only one with a mouse that still has a wire connected to it. And this trackball, it comes out. I have to clean it like every couple days because it gets dirty on the inside. And then I snap it back in, and I don't know. I haven't switched away from it. And I don't game on my computer, so I've never had a need to get a new mouse. All right, everyone, we're getting close to the end. So if we have any additional questions, if you could throw it in the chat. So if you're looking for the daily bias, yeah, so I use the daily chart still. I mean, I know what you're saying, but you should still use the daily chart because you're going to look at the power of three. Let me jump down to the daily quickly. All right, let's take some of the lipstick off. Right, so when you start out in the morning, you're looking at yesterday's high. Yesterday's high was at 17,041. So when you wake up and start your day, since we're bullish for the week, so let's just start there. We're bullish for the week. So every day this week, when we wake up in the morning, if price has not taken out the previous day's high, then that is our daily bias, right? The only time it gets a little slightly different than that is when you wake up and on the London session. Well, I'm assuming you're waking up around New York. But anyway, if the London session takes out the previous day's high, then for the rest of the day, your bias is, you don't really have a bias because it's already completed its daily task. That doesn't mean price couldn't continue to buy up, but that's how you determine bias. So it's generally your power of three. So for instance, in this candle, early in the morning, well, you would have saw the move down. And then around New York's open, and it's when it would have come back to somewhere around the open of the day. And then you'd be looking for a price to continue buying above the previous day's high, and then moving ultimately for the swing high. And that's how I look at my daily bias. Even if I'm trading on a small 1 minute or 30-second chart, if you ask me what's my bias for the day, even this morning, I looked at it and I could see how close we were to the swing high of last week. And so I was like, this week's bias is bullish. Today's goal is to take out last week's high. And we just inched along for 4 or 5 hours and eventually was able to do that. But that's how the bias was determined. It's determined on a higher time frame, even if I'm trading on a 3 minute or 1 minute or whatever. The only thing is, once that target has been taken, then you have to really pay attention to price action, because then price could go either direction. And you're really in a good position if you get to around 2 o'clock in the evening or in the afternoon and it still hasn't taken the high from the previous day. Then you know that your time is on your side. You have about 2 hours left and it still hasn't reached target yet. And so you can have more confidence whenever you see a bullish setup. Oh, today was 3 setups today. It was a break even on one. It was a loss on one, and it was a win on one. The first 2 setups were bearish setups, and the third one was a bullish setup. Oh, sweet. I'm glad that YouTube recommended. Yeah, Samuel, that's why I asked people if they're enjoying the content to like the page or to like the live stream. YouTube will see that a lot of people in this room are liking what's happening, and they'll start recommending it to others who are looking for trading or just something similar. And so hopefully everyone enjoyed the live stream today and are able to like it on their way out. And if you really liked it and you want to come back, then you're subscribed to the channel, and we'll see you again soon. So on that note, we're a couple minutes past the hour. I'm going to shut down this afternoon's live stream, and we will talk again tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock New York time. Hope to see everyone there. Thank you. See you later.